I'm sorry, what was that, John?
Sorry. Stuff popping up on my screen here. Yeah, no, I'm not sure that we've ever met before.
No, we haven't. We've been communicating with each other here for the last week or two, and
Okay.
yeah, you had me worried earlier about the not sending you the link. I was like, oh crap, did we get our time wrong? Or
No, I'm just
uh,
I'm not great with technology, and I was
yeah,
just
Hey.
yeah, it's hard. It's hard with the different time zones because I'm in a different time zone. These guys are in California, so getting it all together is a work itself.
Well, we're all here now.
Yeah, yeah. And Steve Brisbois is here. He's gotten some technical difficulties here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I was just thinking about something. Normally I would slowly slide in, how did it all start and blah, 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 which we will get to. But something just crossed my mind. So since you guys are all kind of competed at the same time, more or less, so why would John Terilli in best form, in this best shape, beat Phil Williams?
I'm not sure that I could have. I admired his physique. I saw what he looked like. He looked pretty deadly. And when you look at a physique at that level, you don't just start giving compliments. You got to look for faults.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start looking for faults in a physique like that, and there really isn't any, it's in the hands of the judges once you're on stage, and you can make one simple little mistake, and it can take you from first place to 10th place because it's so close with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So it's how do I answer something like that?
Oh, it's not really serious. I wanted to see your face when I ask you.
Yeah, and you can ask these questions. I'm fine with it.
But I was just going through your resume. It's kind of similar to mine in some ways. Yeah. So we both placed top 10 at Olympia, but closer to 10 than 1.
Yeah.
We both had our great days where we almost beat the best, but just almost. And then you were top 5 at the Night of Champions, I believe. I was top 5 at the Arnolds.
Yeah.
But we were great, but we really didn't totally break through. So
when I saw your physique, and once I think you got insulted a little bit because they were comparing you to Dorian, and you said, "Don't compare me to Dorian. I'm my own person." Everything you presented, when I was watching him going, this guy's very complete. It's like he's a big man and there's really nothing missing. You had your good days and your bad days, and some people can't tell, but I could. On your good days, if I was a judge and I was judging you against Dorian, it was close. It was close.
In his defense, when I came up, he was kind of really on the way out. He wasn't like as great anymore as he was in like 93, 95. I came in 96. But thank you. That's very, very nice of you. So
I was watching continuously.
Are you tired of hearing or explaining or telling the story how you almost beat Lee Haney?
No, not really. But people want to know, and it's something that interests people.
Yeah, I want to hear
it. I feel that Lee Haney, his biggest secret was his life. He had the girlfriend, which was his wife, and childhood sweetheart. When I look at that contest and the life that I was living, I was lucky to have even made it on that stage, let alone be competitive against him. I mean, some people are atheists, but Lee Haney has a deep faith in God. He plays on God's team, which means he does everything in a particular manner. Okay. I didn't have that going for me. It was my lifestyle. I didn't even think I was in my best shape at that contest. I just whipped it together at the last minute, which to me was a little bit sad because most of my IFBB shows Sorry, you've just lost me.
You're good. I'm putting your pictures up here, John.
Yeah.
There we go.
A lot of my IFBB shows were like last minute prep things. I never had a full 1 year of concentrating on something that I truly felt I could do well in. It was always like, I'm in Australia, I don't know what's going on there. All of a sudden, you know, they would call the head of the IFBB in Australia and say, we'll have John Terilli over. Then once I dropped out of the top 6, nobody was interested in me anymore. So it was a bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Did you and Phil ever compete against each other?
No, we just really admired each other from what I saw.
Yeah.
Phil, as soon as I met him, I was very impressed with him because of his manners, what a good person he was, how he was down to earth. And it was almost like we knew each other for a long time. We'd never even met.
Yeah.
You know, and all I could see was we both respected each other greatly. You know, and I admired his physique.
Yeah, he was incredible. I'm amazed by what you say that what Lee Haney's advantage was, and yes, I absolutely comparing to my career, I agree with you. And funny is, I talked back in the days, I totally have it together, you know. But looking back now, I was a freaking mess. You know, I was unhappy often with what I did. And it's just really hard to win that way. Yeah. And I remember I talked to Ronnie at the Emerald Cup backstage, and I say to Ronnie, why would you do something so stupid and do 800-pound squats like 2 or 3 weeks before the show? He looked at me and he said, well, it's in the hands of God. And if God wants to, has another plan for me, he will let me know. And it just hit me. Said, yeah, I can't argue with that. You know, it's just absolutely incredible the kind of strength you can get from fate like that, which I, of course, was nowhere near. I was more into yelling at my girlfriend that the banana was missing in the last meal or some stuff like that. Yeah, so, yeah, it's. And I remember when I met Lee Haney, 89, he guest posted in Switzerland, and the ease he took everything with. When I was guest posing, I was a freaking mess, although I maybe didn't see it that way. You know, I remember, you know, when they used to pick me up at the airport and they had some kind of plans to show me a castle or anything, I was panicking. I said, no, I really go to the gym. I don't have time for that crap. Yeah. Where I really regret that now, you know, and maturity was actually a real big problem for me. And it's kind of, it just hit me again, as you mentioned, what Lee Haney's advantage was to you. That's very well said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you know, like I say, you know, whether you're an atheist or whatever you believe, just his mindset, he's playing on God's team, you know, and his belief system and the stability of his wife, all of that. And even with myself, I knew I was never really going to be able to do anything until I settled down. And even the last show that I won, I had a full family, you know, wife, child, planning for another one. When you're in that frame of mind and that mindset, it's really what you need. That stability is really what you need for bodybuilding.
Capability.
Yeah. No, John, can I ask you real quick? Now, I don't want to ask you if you think you should have beat Lee, but did you, like, when you saw Lee backstage or before you came out, did you think, you know, I think I got him? Do you think I got this? Or did it ever cross your mind?
There was a lot of good competitors there.
Yeah.
And look, with Lee Haney, I only actually ever saw what it was all about once I saw the photo, standing next to him backstage. I remember at my first pro show, he was walking up the stairs. I was behind him. And I just looked up and I go, who's this guy here? I've never even seen him before. I said, he looks kind of big, but nothing special. And no disrespect, I didn't even know who it was. Then when we got up and he turned around, I go, okay, well, this is going to probably be the guy that's going to be the main competitor today. So it's really great that you didn't think much of him. But I think, you know, I quickly came came to and understood what was there. Look, in Australia, it was more difficult competing against some of the people that you've never seen here in Australia, who totally intimidated me. And the biggest hurdles that I had was beating everyone in this country and getting that pro card.
Right.
Once I got the pro card, it was I don't know. I wasn't really scared or overawed by anybody. I always had the nerves. I was always nervous, like I normally was before a contest. But there wasn't one particular person that I looked at and I go, "Oh yeah, it's going to be really difficult to match this guy," except for Gaspari. Now, when Gaspari came around and he showed that level of conditioning, I thought, I know what I've got to do to get this, but how do I settle my life in a manner where I could actually do this? Because a lot of the contests, they were just slapped together at the last minute without much notice. I never really had a chance to spend a whole year training for something and entering the IFBB. Before my second pro show, I had already decided I don't want this life. I want it out. Now, fortunately, going into that show, I didn't realize I was going to do so good. So then I come back to Australia and I'm out with a friend of mine. It was 3 a.m. in the morning. We came out of a nightclub, drunk and high, partying. And I said to him, listen, let's go to all the newsstands and see the new magazines. So we went to this little newsstand and I said to him, look, see, this is the reason why I'm getting out. Look at that guy on the cover. I've never seen that guy there. He's new and look how fantastic he looks. So I picked up and it was me on the cover of Iron Man.
Wow.
Then there was another magazine there that had a full feature on me. And I said, 2 magazines, one on the cover. Let's go to the next newsstand up the road. 2 more magazines with stories on me. Then we're walking back to the car. And I said to my friend, but I told everybody I was going to retire. I told my mother this was the end of this. I wasn't going to do it anymore. What am I going to do now? And, to be quite honest, before that pro show, when I saw the way everybody was living, what you had to do to get ahead, and I said, this is not something I'm going to be able to keep doing.
Yeah,
it's just not going to happen. So, even before that show, I had already decided I want out, and it took me another 11 years to find an appropriate exit. And the way that happened was I was walking to a photo shoot with Chris Lund, talking off the record about stuff and the officials and what we thought of them. And he brought up Samir Bannout and he said, that guy is in so much trouble with the IFBB. He's never going to be treated fairly again. He's done his dash. And Chris Lund said, if I was Samir, I would go to the NABBA Pro universe, do my best to win it, and get out. So on the way to the photo shoot, he was telling me this, and I said, maybe that's what I should be doing.
Right.
So that year, I did enter the NABBA Pro, and I got second. Kowak won that, and he was in his best shape. In the IFBB, I had beaten Kowak a couple of times. That day, I was not in great shape. He was in his best shape. He won. And then a year later, I actually came well prepared. And Kowak didn't show up. I won the show, and I said, this is it. You're done. Get out.
That's it.
My heart was not in it.
Yeah.
No matter what I said or what sort of threats I made, or I'm going to be backed, I'm going to defend this and that, my heart was not in it. When I saw the lifestyle and what you had to go through,
Right. Yeah.
it was just, I don't know what to say about that. I think Bill and Gene understand the underlying and the things that are in between the lines. I think they
obviously the amount of stuff you probably would have had to start taking and stuff like that too probably weighed a lot.
Yeah. Hey, John.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the beginning. You were born in Rome, Italy, right?
Yep. Yeah.
What age did you move to Australia, your family?
Well, we got on the ship at age 7, and by the it took a month. So by the time we got to Australia, it was just before my 8th birthday, and that was the whole thing. We came to this country. All the rest of the family was in the United States, which probably would have been a better move.
Well, that's why your grandmother's in New York, or was in New York during that time, right?
She was in New York, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this: when did you start bodybuilding? What age?
I started becoming aware and trying to do something at 9 years of age. I was frustrated.
Wow.
Because I'd look at these comic books in a barber shop, and I'd see Steve Reeves in the back of these comic books, and I'm going, just turn the page, because look at this. How would you do this? How does a person even begin to do this? Why do you want this so bad? How could you do this to you? How do you do this to your body?
Mm-hmm.
So I would turn the page. Then one day, the barber was taking a long time. My mother was outside the barber shop. We were shopping, and again, this thing with the comic books. So I put the comic book down. I went out and I said, "Look, Mum," I said, I know you're getting frustrated waiting for the barber, but there's got to be some way that I can look like these guys." And she goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "These muscular guys in the back of the comic book. I just want this so bad." And she goes, "Just close the comic book and get your hair cut." That's how it started. By the age of 11,
Yeah.
I had started figuring things out. I bought an Iron Man magazine, and they had a chess program in there, and it said, it didn't have a photo. It just had the program written out, and it had 4 times 12 bench press. And I'm going, what's this 4 times 12? I didn't know what sets and reps were.
Sure. Yeah.
But I said, okay, that they call this the prone press, bench press. So I guess you've got to press a bench. So I started laying on the ground and pressing the coffee table, because prone meant you're laying down. Bench press. I go, but I wonder why they want you to press a bench. Is a coffee table good enough? That's how it started. That was at age 11. So after a while, reading magazines and looking at things, you start to put things together. But I never still knew what sets and reps were. That didn't happen until I actually made it into a gym. I just used to, let's say I lifted a brick, I curled a brick for 1 minute. I knew that when I'd be able to curl it for 2 minutes, I was going to get progress. So it was more or less like time under tension, and that's all that I knew.
Right, time under tension, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 5 minutes of squatting. I started with 1 minute, and I kept the same weight. 2 bricks on the end of a pipe that I got out of the garden, and squatting for 5 minutes.
And I think that's totally fine. It's all about the passion at this point, and if you have genetics and the passion, you will grow at least for a while. It's just. I've seen this so much today that people start with perfect programs. They know everything about training when they approach me, but they will never happen for them. I can just tell, for many other reasons. So I think it's how many of us started, and I always found the way I trained back then. I remember sprinting up the mountain and then doing a set of endless squats, or sprinting up on my bike because I saw somebody in the gym doing it. And I don't think I would have done better if I would have a better program at the beginning. Of course, at some point, this has to settle into some kind of more structured program. But I think that's totally fine. I find it fascinating how we all started, and way more romantic than the way it starts today.
Well, look, it was our belief system, and you don't have to have the best coach in the world. You don't have to have the best program, the best diet, but that belief system and believing, and I think that was part of Lee Haney's secret, because of the way he lived his life and his belief system.
When did you see the first time people on stage, or go to a show yourself, and when did you compete the first time?
The first time I competed was it was called the Mr. Police Boys contest. It was a youth club, right? And I'd never been to a gym before. So I stepped out of the home environment, training at home. We had a weight room at school as well. And so I went to this boys' club. And the first contest was all the boys' clubs in Sydney would compete for this title. And that was my first contest. I got second, but you know what? This is why over the years I've never really complained about unfair judging, because can you imagine I'm walking into my first contest and I get met backstage in a doorway with a guy smoking a pipe. He stops me and he goes, you know who's going to win this contest today? And he didn't know what I looked like. He had just heard this young kid's coming, you know, he may be really good. And he told me who was going to win. He goes, it's his last year as a junior. So Dave Smith is going to win. I just shrugged my shoulders and I walked in and I said, just do what you got to do. 6 weeks later, at the state titles, I turned all that around. You know, I went there for the juniors, which is now called the teenagers. I won that, and that was it. I was done. And the promoters and everybody thought, we better get this guy to enter the open division, which I didn't want to do.
Right. Let me ask you this, John. The 1980 Mr. Olympia, you competed in the amateur.
Yeah.
Right? What was the amateur show called?
That was called the Best in Australia.
Okay.
So it was invitational. And
that's the year Arnold won the Olympia.
That's your Arnold one. So that contest that I did and won, that was the opening show before the 1980 Mr. Olympia. That was the opening. And so on the same stage. Yeah, I saw a lot of things that,
right.
I guess 20 years of age, I was in all the right places at the wrong time. And eventually, you know, if I can settle my life down a little bit, I'd like to write a book.
You should.
About what I saw,
right,
and what actually went on that I saw in the background that nobody else.
Now, can you give us some stories of what you saw?
Did you see Arnold backstage then?
Yes.
You did?
Yes,
okay.
I did.
Yeah,
did you see any of the fighting there, or any of that stuff we still talk about?
When they were having that argument between him and Mensa, I was standing outside the door. They were inside a room, and there was all this commotion. Then I turned around, and I saw this huge lat sticking out of the doorway, and it was actually Franco leaning against the doorway, and half of his back was poking out and covering the doorway. And I go, who the hell is this? What's all the yelling? What's going on in here? And obviously it was Mike Mensa and Arnold arguing. And that's all that happened. It was, you know, nothing was going to happen because there were too many people there. There was not going to be a fight. It was just Arnold knew he had said whatever he had said, and you know, he was just trying to calm the situation, and Mensa just like totally lost the plot.
Now, John, what did you think as a 20-year-old seeing Arnold in person like that?
Well, I was impressed with the whole thing. It was an incredible contest, and Arnold was not at his best, far from it. But you know, just his shape, some of the poses, like when they stood side on, you know, Chris Dickerson looked fantastic, but you know, Arnold was so huge, and then the form, the shape, everything. There was a couple of poses that I guess he didn't look great in, but you know, then when you take into consideration all the signature poses that he did that no one could copy, the shape, the reputation, the way the audience reacted, you couldn't really give it to anyone else.
Interesting.
And he was way off. He was way off.
So I'm a right here, right now. John, how you doing, brother?
Steve, how are you?
Man, you know what? You know, I came in right after you got out, right?
Yep.
Man, you know, dude, I used to watch you. I used to see you in all the magazines, brother. And I remember, I think it was 85, right? 85, you placed, when was it you with Lee Haney?
That was 1983.
83, yeah, we just talked about that.
So
Okay.
my first pro show was, sorry?
85 was a big year for you, I remember. And I came in 86, right after 86, 87.
I think at 85, I was already on the way out. Due to, I mean, look, when Rami missed the Jim Mannion show, right, he didn't show up at Jim, I knew he was finished. Right now, in 1985, certain things happened. I didn't realize that it was compulsory to go to these competitors' meetings, so I decided not to go. I had sent somebody to my room to get me, and the atmosphere when I got there was not good. You know, in 1985, I did something the last couple of days which basically destroyed a lot of my conditioning. That, along with not wanting to go to that meeting, or look, I thought you didn't have to, you know, that didn't go over too well. So I knew when Rami didn't show up, I said, you know, it's not going to be good for him. Plus, he didn't look any good. So yeah, there's a lot of things like that I don't know if I should even bring up, but I was on my way out in 1985. You know, according to the way the IFBB and, you know, the way you have to respect certain things and you have to act, I didn't have I didn't have that out yet.
Yeah.
Hey,
A little bit before that, how did you win your pro card? What show and against what competition?
Okay, well, what I did with a pro card, it was a little bit of a difficult situation because I was training for the IFBB World Championships, and there was a political problem in Australia where they tried to overthrow Paul Graham. Right. So then Weeder and Oscar State turned around and they said, we're not having any Australians over until you've sorted this out. So I went to Paul Graham and I said, Paul, I've been training the whole year. What's going to happen? He goes, don't worry, I will get the official sanctioning. And I said, can you guarantee that? And he said, no. And I said, well, look, next week, I said, they've got a qualifying contest for the NABA universe. I said, if you can't give me some sort of guarantee, I'm not in shape. I said, but I think, you know, with a couple of tricks, I could probably, if I squeeze enough water out, I can probably win it. And then I'll be able to go to the NABA universe. And he says, if you do that, you'll get suspended immediately, which he did. He goes, but because you come from my gym, he goes, knowing you're probably going to win, at least you'll get some publicity. So now he's an IFBB official dealing with this situation that I presented to him at his engagement party. I waited till he got drunk and I told him so he wouldn't be too upset. And so after I won the my division in the NABA universe, and even there, one of the Italian officials approached me and they said, look, you're really good. He was speaking to me in Italian. He goes, but John Brown, last year's winner, is back here. He goes, you realize we're not going to give you the overall title because John Brown is last year's winner. And I just kept my mouth shut. I was already used to what happened at my first contest. With that guy telling me so I just kept my mouth shut and just took it.
John, so what year was that? Was that 83? I'm sorry.
That was 82.
82. Okay.
82.
Hey, John, I didn't realize that you went through a lot of those, several of those challenges with the IFBB back in the day because, you know, I've never spoke to these guys about some of the stuff I've been through. And I got to be honest with you, man, now I understand. I had 2 major incidents with the IFBB back in the day. So, I mean, you know, it's kind of like they had such a control to some degree, you know what I mean? And you had to follow the rules. Listen, I was there. Wayne D'Amelia pulled me aside. You remember Wayne, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Wayne D'Amelia, man. I mean, I love the guy to this day, but I mean, he played by the rules, and we had to follow his rules. And we had a major incident in Pittsburgh with myself and, of all people, the Black Prince, Robbie Robinson.
Okay.
Yeah, it dealt with some things with diuretics. I had to write a report to the IFBB, and it was a pretty big incident back in the day. You guys don't know, but I never brought it up. But hey,
No, you never mentioned that before, bro.
No, I never did. I didn't
Yeah.
want to, but you know something? I got nothing to hide anymore,
Mhm.
man. I mean, it was interesting to see what it was like with the IFBB. And you know something? I went to dinner with Joe Weider, man. And I don't know, John, if you ever had the opportunity to do that with him.
I did. I actually did. I went to his house.
Oh, you did. So you were luckier than I am. You remember Renel Janvier?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Joe Weider, excuse me, he took Ronel Janvier and I out to dinner after the Arnold Classic, where I placed 5th for my first time. And went to LA, went to Venice Beach, took us out to dinner and promised me, you know, some big contracts. And at that time, I wasn't under contract. I was just kind of endorsement of the product, but there was no contract signed. And you know what? At the end of the day, long story short, I mean, I got shafted in a bad way, and you know the story is just too much to get into. But I've had several experiences with them, man, and so I didn't know that you went through some of that stuff, man.
I've been through some things that I'm not even sure I should mention.
Well, you know what, John? Today's day and age, man, go for it, man.
That's all right now.
Yeah, we don't filter anything on here, man. Go ahead.
Oh, man.
There's one subject that I did want to bring up, but I don't think I can. And you know, this dude's still around doing the same thing. But look, you know, even one of the things I did want to say, like you, I think Wayne is great, but I'll tell you when I started getting really suspicious of a lot of stuff at the Caesars Palace Pro World Cup, where I placed second to Haney. There was this huge staircase down to the stage, and they wanted us to walk from the top to the bottom. And we were standing at the top. We had pumped up. We were all ready. And here we are standing there just waiting. And these officials were arguing as to, they were having a power trip as to who was going to command when the curtains were going to open. There was a power struggle going on. We were listening to it. And, you know, after that, and before that show, I had already decided I've got to get out of this. They're the things that used to really worry me. Now, Wayne's a great guy. And, you know, Jim Mannion is doing his thing. I'm not sure what to say, but one thing that I would have liked to have seen, because today, whatever it is that's happened to bodybuilding, you know, now Wayne can turn around and say, yeah, we don't want these big guys, the way they're looking and all of it. They created it. They created that.
Right.
You did what they did.
They
We
did.
know that.
And one problem that I used to have when I used to talk to the judges, I'm going, you guys totally ignore shape. You totally ignore shape. You give nothing for shape. Why? So all they looked at was conditioning and how big you would get. Conditioning and size.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with shape. And ignoring that, I think, is one of the major reasons why we've ended up where we are today.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, okay, so John, remember you said it right though too, man, because back in our day, and if you guys follow a lot of stuff on Instagram and social media, that all of us back in our day, and even a lot of people today, are under the same page when it comes to conditioning and aesthetics and looks. And nobody likes this massive monster look anymore. And I'm sorry, man. These guys are freaks. They look, I mean, they're amazing people, obviously, in another way, but there's no physique, there's no aesthetics left. We've been there, and we all agree, and you can see it on all the internet all over the place, right?
Look, I actually think, you know, people have labeled Dorian as, I think the guy in a lot of poses showed aesthetics. I'm sorry if you don't agree with me. This is the guy that had size, and he had a bit, his waist was a little bit wide, but you know what, it was flat. He had a flat waist. he kept his, towards the end, he started getting a bit messy, but he kept his faculties about him. And even Gene, yourself, when you kept that waist in, when your waist was intact, a couple of times I could tell you were having a bit of a problem because I've had it as well. You know, you guys were the last of the massive guys that actually looked good.
I mean, you know, I had lunch with Samir not long ago, and as I was walking to the restaurant, he was showing me my video from the Miss Universe in '94, where I had a very, very small midsection, and he's like, "That is by far the best you ever looked." And you know, I totally agree now, but back then when I looked at it, and then you seen in the magazines, you seen Nasser and Paul Dillette and Dorian, I thought, okay, this is how I have to go, you know, instead of kind of working on what I had and working on perfectioning my presentation and see how I can get harder and thing, you know, but I was just totally kind of, I wouldn't say misled. This is my decision, and I wanted to get bigger, but I was totally. When I look at that today, and it drives me crazy when I just was going through some YouTube comments when people were talking about me, and one guy mentioned, well, his midsection was always messed up. So I did take a couple of screenshots from the Mr. Universe and sent it to him and said, "You don't know what you're talking about, you know." I had a very, very, very small midsection. What the hell are you talking about? Yeah, and unfortunately, this is the way they judged back then. Because I knew I cannot look like Sean Ray or Kevin Levroni. I was aware of that with the round muscle bellies. I was just trying, what do I have to do to win? And it was totally misled, going to the wrong direction. But then when it comes to the stomach, that kind of stuff, that was clearly just food was my enemy. You know, I was just had no idea about stomach bacteria, good food. You know, it's just like I thought carbs are carbs. You know, if I eat all day pasta or bread or rice, doesn't really matter. So I ate massive amount of pastas, and a few years in, it started really show. So I totally know what you're saying. You know, it's this shape should be really more rewarded.
Well, let me ask you guys this: with this last Arnold, do you think with Samson winning that it kind of went back to aesthetics a little bit?
Well, you know what? I was just gonna say, John, you said it right a while ago because, and again, we're looking at with the judges how they set the standards. And JP, you're right, man. I mean, your physique. I mean, you could have taken to a lot of better places, just like all of us. It's just that they set those standards. And when you look at what happened to the Arnolds, I mean, it's almost like, are they bringing this back now? Are they going to set the standards right again? I mean, what are they going to do? And here, everybody's telling Big Ramy, you got to get out of the game now. And he's getting mad, obviously, on social media, and he says he's not giving up. So it's like, what do they want, right?
Look, this business about getting misled, Gene said it perfectly. Because, I mean, with me at contests, I was having this discussion with Mike Christian, and Mike felt I was better than what I was given. We were always good friends. And, I said to him, well, the judges keep telling me I've got to be bigger. He goes, yeah, but John, they're talking like maybe 3 pounds. You've just put on a whole bunch of size and you've blown your waist. Once my waist goes, everything else looks average. You've totally ruined your proportions. And this was from talking to judges. The first sign that I ever saw, and it could have been happening before this, and I don't know what he did, at the New York Night of Champions in 1985, where Rich Gaspari, mate, was a big hit. He came in full, hard, very vascular. Then a year later at the 86 Arnold Classic, that's where he set a standard that I think still today nobody has been able to match. But at that Night of Champions, to me, I don't want to accuse him of anything. He couldn't hold his stomach in. But when he flexed, it all came together. If Robert Kennedy from Muscle Mag said, look, this guy's found some sort of secret drug. I didn't know what to say, but it could have been.
I remember everyone thinking that.
Yeah, that could have been the first sign of insulin. I don't know, but this whole insulin thing, I think, started in Czechoslovakia. Dr. Ludek Nozek.
Right.
I'm not sure, how far back it goes. And because everybody's using this insulin and coming to me for advice, about a year ago, I actually experimented with it. And I'm thinking, to me, it's a waste of time. Whatever you can do with insulin, you can do without it.
Hey, John, you remember the first bodybuilder to use insulin was Tim Belknap. Do you remember that?
Well, but that's because he was a diabetic.
He was a diabetic.
Depending on it.
He was a diabetic, but he used insulin.
John, when it comes to Robert Kennedy, he was a personal friend. He's the one that convinced me to turn pro, man, back in 1986. And he had a really tragic life for a long time after the fact, man. But he was an innovator in a lot of different ways, Robert Kennedy, man. So I mean, obviously you've met him many times, and he had you, John. That's the first time I saw you in the magazine. Was in Robert Kennedy's magazine. And he only lived a few miles from me, man, his office in Toronto. So it's
awesome person. He was an awesome person.
Yeah, he was. Robert Kennedy was amazing, man. He was a genuine guy. Listen, I got to tell you what's on. Wayne DeMilia told me I was not ready to turn pro after I won the universe in 86. Okay? And I went over after I won the 86 universe. I said, I think I want to turn pro. And then Wayne DeMilia, I called him up. I think I want to turn pro. He goes, you can't, Steve. You won the bantamweight. You're not ready to turn pro. So I go to Robert Kennedy. Now you got to remember, in '86 they were tested in the universe, and I wasn't on roids, and I went to go see Robert Kennedy after Wayne DeMilia told me that, and Robert Kennedy said, "Let me tell you something in his English voice. You got what it takes. You have the perfect physique." So I called Wayne up and said, "I'm turning pro. You don't have a choice." So from in '86, in October of '86 to May of '87, I put on 20 pounds. Of course, I had to, I'm going on the Michaels. And Wayne came up to me at the Night of Champions where I placed 9th, my first pro show. And he said, Steve, you proved me wrong, man. But, because I know it was about aesthetics and stuff like that. And you guys know this, and we're losing that in the sport in a lot of ways. And that's why, C-Bum, man, this guy here is like the most famous bodybuilder in the world today. He's got that look.
Yeah.
Look, there's just a few changes that have occurred. Number one, I think muscle definition and muscle separation have now been replaced with muscle hardness, vascularity, and don't worry about aesthetics. Just put on as much size as possible.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I think we've gone, and I don't know if we. I would like to think that we could take it back. I think in the 80s they had the formula that was correct.
Mm-hmm.
This thing of height to weight, it seems to be favoring C-Bum. He's a tall guy, and he's got a lot of room left to improve. Then you've got people like Breon. The guy's got to go on 0 carbohydrates for months in order to make weight.
Hey, let's not forget, right? C-Bum is Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget that, man.
I'm not putting him down. I'm just saying he's got an advantage.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah,
because this ratio that they've developed, where I feel to be, to have this aesthetics and this classic look, just let the person weigh whatever they're going to weigh, and let them create this beautiful aesthetic body, regardless of their size, height, or whatever. I think that was the formula. The judging in the 80s, it seemed to be pretty accurate, fairly accurate. And
John,
we were going.
How tall are you? How tall are you?
5'10".
Oh,
okay,
wow.
I'm 5'4". So when I came in as a pro bodybuilder, I mean, you got to understand, it was a lot harder for us to make our stand in the sport because of our height, except for Muhammad Ben Azizi, of course. He was 5'2", 200 pounds, man. But, you know, there was a lot of short guys, including myself, that, you know, it was a little difficult, but we held our own in a lot of ways, man.
Look,
So, and that's what I like about it, you know, and we held our own. And so the judges looked at that, not like today, man.
Look, I hear what you're saying, but then look what Gene said. You know, as big as what he got, you know, a lot of the times his waist was intact. He's looking at the smaller guys and saying, I don't think I can do that. Would I be right in saying that, Gene? You did say that to Sean Ray in the interview.
Absolutely. I mean, when I was backstage on my first show at the Arnold's Classic, I was absolutely, although I've seen pros guest posts before, but I never seen really pros in that kind of shape. I was absolutely, first of all, amazed how tiny they are, but then also the way they came across on stage, because I know they had a little screen backstage. So I looked at Sean Ray and Kevin and I saw them warming up and I was not impressed at all. And then when they walked on stage and I looked at that little screen, I couldn't believe. And I then realized they have total different bodies from me. But really quick, back to Wayne DeMilia, I have to give him credit. My experience with him was different, except he tried to steal my money several times, but that's a different story. But he did take me to a site in '96, the European tour, and say, don't get bigger. Don't get bigger. You stop this craziness with the 800-pound deadlifts and choose exercises differently. Don't get bigger. I have to give him credit on that. But of course, I was already, I made my mind up already where I have to go to Victorian the next year or get close to Nasser. And I made my mind up already. But I have to give him so much credit. He did tell me not to get bigger.
Yeah, you're right about Wayne, though. There's a lot. I mean, I've had some good things with him also, man. You know, just a couple events. And Wayne has always had a decent heart to some degree when it came to the bodybuilders. You know, he was just following the rules under the whatever you want to call it, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, call it the cabal. Who knows, man?
Hey, John, I want to ask you again. You brought it. You mentioned Big Ramy about you think he's being blackballed. Do you think he should make some? If you were to talk to Big Ramy, what would you tell him? What do you think he should do?
Well, look, I don't know what his latest problem is because all of a sudden I saw things change. Somehow his arms started disappearing when he stood relaxed. And you know, you could tell he's been injecting his shoulders. I'm actually not sure what's going on there. It almost looks like he does nothing in the off season. He tried to put something together really quick just before the contest. I can't understand what's happening to him. Even his arms in a back shot seem to be devoid of brachialis. The brachialis was just totally missing.
Yeah.
And he's like standing relaxed. His arms don't seem, something strange. Something doesn't seem.
John, you see often now, and I've seen it with Ian Boyer. He will kill me, just listen to this, but it is a fact. I've seen it with Hunter Labrada. I've seen it with Ramy. That lower back being kind of cut off. What the hell? You know, when I look at the Ramy of 2013, it wasn't like that. What do you think that is?
The lower back that you're talking about.
Yeah, in the rear double biceps pose, there's like a piece missing in the lower back. I mean, I've seen that with Dennis Wolf, but with Dennis Wolf, I think it was genetics. He had very, very high lats. But I've seen that now more and more often. You know, what do you think that is? You know, they talk about nerve damage, that kind of stuff. Do you have any idea what that could be?
But you're talking about the actual lower lats or the
yes.
Lower...
Yes, when you look at the rear double biceps pose, maybe, Jason, maybe you can put it up, Ramy's or Hunter's. There's a real piece missing.
Yeah,
on Ramy?
Looks like there's a gap. There's space. There's empty space.
Yeah. Look, I think it could be put down to nerve damage. One of my biceps is not torn, but because I've had so many elbow operations, the bottom part of the bicep seems to be shortening exactly the same way Gene explained about the lower back. So I would tend to think it'll
Is this good here, JP?
yeah.
Yeah, it's not, as long as he doesn't get into the pose, it doesn't look so bad. You know,
Yeah.
once he hits the double biceps pose compared to 2013, there's just a big piece missing.
Yeah.
And Hunter has the same thing. Ian had the same thing. And like I say, I've seen it with Wolf in the past, but Wolf always had it from early in his career. It was just a different kind of genetics. I'm just kind of really wondering. And I'm wondering now if they think that with the stem cell treatments, they can bring that back.
Oh,
I mean,
maybe, but you know, Gene, tell me if you've ever noticed this also, because this started happening to me, and thank God I got out when I did. When you look at Ronnie, his calves, the inner head of the calf doesn't contract anymore, and it's the same thing with Dexter. Dexter doesn't have particularly great calves, but what he does have, the inner head actually doesn't contract. And I also saw a photo of Dorian that was, I think, taken last year. Now, Dorian had incredible calves. There was a photo of him and his daughter, and he came up on his calves. They're not the same shape that they were when he was competing. Now, what I think happens to the calves, it's called the double crush syndrome. Because if you've done enough damage to your lower back, the nerves that go down to the calves, right? There's a branch of nerves right underneath the popliteus, which is right behind the knee, and that branch of nerves sits in the inner head of the calf muscles right at the very top. That is the nerve root that also goes to your lower back. Once you've done enough damage to your lower back from doing heavy leg work, this is a syndrome that's called the double crush syndrome. So I'm assuming that probably the same thing is happening to people's lats from putting a disc out or herniating something. You know, Rami.
It is really makes sense what you're saying, because I always had great calves on stage.
Yeah.
But I had great calves going into bodybuilding from playing soccer.
Yeah.
So in 2003, as everybody knows, I had my squatting accident, and I had my leg in a cast for about 12 weeks, the foot pretty straight. As I came out of that, my calves were pretty much gone, and I never got them back.
Yeah.
Because I always wanted to I'm not interested in muscles anymore, but a few years ago, I was visiting Michael Frosswas in Ohio. And, you know, he's a tiny guy now, but he has those huge calves still.
Yeah.
So I thought, that's a good look. And I said, okay, I'm going to build my calves up a little bit. That's kind of a cool look. How do you live in Palm Springs anyway? We wear shorts. Even I'm not interested in muscles. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
My calves look pathetic, even if I train them every week once or twice. So it's probably exactly what you say.
Could be. So I think that's probably what's happening to the lower lats. I saw a set of T-bar rowing with Dennis James pushing him. And I mean, the amount of work he put into that set and the way he was positioning his back, I'm surprised he didn't injure himself just from doing that in front of the camera. You know, we did a lot of crazy stuff back then, which I'm sure we all regret now. And I honestly think, you know, even myself, I always knew that you didn't need to train heavy, but there was this almost like this this attitude where you had to go in the gym and prove that you could do it. And I always kept saying, well, look, this is going to stop soon, and I'll start doing things correctly. It never really stopped. You know, it was almost like this ego thing of lifting these heavy weights, and they're not necessary, because even for me, to put the last 2 inches of muscles on my arms, I had to lighten the load so much in order to even feel what I was doing. And that's how I was able to put on those last 2 inches. Otherwise, I had these really strong arms and not much was happening with heavy weights.
Right.
Jason, if I sent you something on WhatsApp, can you show that, or is that difficult?
Can you email it to me? That's easier.
Oh, it's on WhatsApp already. I can email it to you.
Yeah, send it to my email. That's easier.
All right. So I have another question about your training. How do you train today?
Well, today, what I do I usually try to go with the environment. I don't have a lot of time without going into my personal situation. So I'm training 3 days a week, 1 set warm up, 1 set to failure. But my 1 set to failure is not Dorian, Arthur Jones, Mike Mensa type of failure.
Right.
It's a set of 30 or a set of 50. And I actually read somewhere where Rick Valenti is doing this arm workout where he does sets of 50.
Right.
I started doing that, and straight away my arms grew. So that's how I'm training at the moment. So it's one set warm up, sometimes 2 sets warm up, then 1 set done to failure, in and out as quickly as possible.
Right.
No cardio. I do love walking. Whenever I can, I go for long walks. And I don't think I could do any more than that, Gene, with the way, you know, my mind is occupied with, you know, external things that happen outside the gym. So I call it environmental training, which means I'm adapting to my environment. And I don't think I could actually spend any more time than what I do now in the gym and get a quality workout. I'd probably feel guilty and say, listen, you're neglecting all this stuff just to be able to take a longer workout, you know?
What else do you do in life now?
Well, I do a little bit of personal training. I've got a couple of projects that I'm thinking of putting together, but nothing has come of them yet because I'm still putting all the pieces together. And that's pretty much it.
Hey, John, did you own a gym at one time?
I had 2 gyms.
Okay.
I had one that was called the Ultimate Fitness Center and another one, Broadway Gym, which is still around. And I had a very, very big gay following. So the gym was like 80% gay and lesbian. In fact, I've always done really, really well with the gay crowd. They seemed to follow me. And that particular place where I had my gym was in that part of Sydney where you could take advantage of that. So that was called the Ultimate Fitness Center. Then I bought Broadway Gym. Now they're both gone. One, we had to just like get out of there because the building had problems, and the other one I just sold because I'd had enough of it.
JP, I got that picture whenever you're ready.
Yeah, you know, that's like, I'm usually okay with technical stuff, but to get those freaking pictures into that email right now. Oh, you got it there, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I can see exactly. What you.
That's muscular atrophy, so that's probably due to nerve damage. It almost has to be.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a big difference when you look at it like that.
Major difference.
Yeah.
That's a major difference.
And you don't think some of it is his posing, because look at his angles are a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean it is, but no, there's definitely a piece missing. Look at the inner back too. I mean, there's no deepness there, so
yeah.
But this is what happened to Ronnie.
Right around here.
If you guys remember, one of his lats just shortened. He was still competing.
Yeah, but with Ronnie, it was a clear tear in one side. It was different. But now this one, you see this more and more often. Akeem has it, Hunter, like I say, has it. You know, Rami has it, and it's just something I never really seen in the past. Other than you see a clear torn muscle, but it's kind of different.
Yeah, that's different.
It's good that you brought this up because I think we need to be careful, and people need to be careful because. Even you said you're not interested in having muscles, but you want to look good in shorts. You've got people now that have done hardly anything with their physiques, and they're looking better than the bodybuilders that spent, 30, 40 years banging away with weights. We had the best bodies in the world, and now we've been relegated to, I don't know, almost broken down heaps of flesh.
Yeah. John, what's your opinion on Nick Walker?
Nick Walker, look, I don't know what to say because, like, okay, those varicose veins, I mean, they are what they are. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
It's a genetic thing or whatever. His limb length, his legs and his limb length don't really match the upper body, and
Mhm.
I don't think he has the greatest shape.
So do you see him ever winning an Olympia?
Yeah, he's right up there. He'll probably win it.
You think so?
Good.
I mean, look, to me now it seems like he may be sliding. You know, you had Samson Duarte and what's the Andrew Jack.
Andrew Jack looks great.
What did Nick place in that contest? Was it third?
Second, this last
Second.
Arnold? Yeah. He
So
got
I'm
third
not-
at the Olympia, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure how he beat Andrew Jack.
He shouldn't have, in my opinion.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, again, so I don't know what's going on in the judging
Yeah.
panel. Back to you got Samson Duarte who's there. Okay, we go. He's not highly separated. He's not over conditioned, but really nicely shaped. So I thought, okay, maybe they got the drift now. They're just looking at this shape, the beauty, and everything. They're not looking for deep separation, deep cuts. Then that whole contest was a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
Nick Walker, I don't know what to say because he's got some good body parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's definitely a lot of talk now when you see the picture of Nick in between the two of them.
Yeah.
About where the judging is going now. That's why I brought that up. Like,
yeah,
is aesthetics coming back?
Well, I don't know. It could be back for one contest.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you never know. Exactly.
Right.
Sean
I would
Roden,
say that.
you know, Sean
And it's
Roden.
kind of, when you look at the top three, it's kind of weird that in some way he should be first or third. I don't know how he fits in the middle there between those two. But no, with Nick, I'm very split on Nick. You know, on one side I've seen the Nick who competed as an amateur, which was not being taken seriously, and who did much miss the pro card. I think it was 2018 or 19 at the USA, and I would never have guessed that this is a guy who's going to make $1 million a year in bodybuilding, and he did it, you know. So I'm very split on him, and I really admire the guy. If he doesn't, if he's healthy, you know, somewhat, there's no way to see that from the outside. If he's not, then of course there's nothing to admire about. But you know, you sometimes never know. You think the guy's going to die, and he might be in better shape than others. Yeah. But I'm very split on him. I don't like the physique, absolutely, I don't. But I really admire the guy. With what
I'm glad you said that because I didn't want to be so upfront. It's not my favorite physique, that's for sure.
Well, JP, you've said that you don't think he'll win an Olympia.
You know, any Olympia, like I always say, you know, the second they all walk on stage, everything we talked about before can just change in an instant. You know, I mean, there were certain years where Brandon won, where like nobody was really great, and Brandon won without any legs really. Although I like his physique, you never really know. You have to be very careful with those kind of statements. But yeah, if the way I understood bodybuilding when I did it, I would not have ever thought that a guy like Nick can win a Mr. Olympia. You know, I always thought he's probably going to be 4th, 5th, 6th, you know, for years to come. I can be wrong, and it can change in an instant if the right day arrives. And a lot of them depends on, I never really seen anything great from Samson yet. It's just very thick, everything. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And if they can't fix that, I don't think he will ever be the best on a certain day. It's just not hard enough. And then when I look at Derek, I mean, if everything goes normal, Derek could easily win 5 in a row. You know, he's very young. He has a beautiful shape. But I also never seen him hard in the shoulder, chest, arm. So it'd definitely be interesting. I still believe that the guy who won now, helped me, Iranian, Hadi. I think he's gonna win 2. He's gonna win 2 or 3 because he's very consistent in this for many years now. He's gonna win 2 or 3 before somebody else takes over for many years. What could be Derek? So we'll see. Definitely more interesting than he was 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand how Andrew Jack was totally ignored at the Olympia. I don't know. You know, he was as good as what he was at the Arnold Classic, but this is consistent with what you would expect in a pro shows. You know, as much as I hate to say it.
Yeah.
It's an
Well-
IFBB thing, which I've been watching over the years. You see somebody really good, they barely make it into the top 10.
Yeah.
And they may
Yeah.
do a bit worse at the next contest, and all of a sudden they're catapulted to
Yeah.
a high placing.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure if that's the judges missing certain things or they didn't have room for it. I
Mhm.
don't think contests are fixed.
Yeah.
Hey, John, I before I forget, because I made some notes here, there's something I want to ask you. I stayed at the hotel where many athletes stayed in Vegas for a whole week for the Olympia. And I've seen it with my own eyes that there's pretty much every athlete, including Seabum, has a coach who pretty much makes every 3 hours a decision what's going to happen next, including when to go to the bathroom. How did you put this together back in your days? Did you have some kind of advisors, or did you just read magazines, or how did you do it?
I had friends that were always, advising that I hardly ever listened to. In the end, it was me making up my own mind, and I found the more people that I talked to, the harder it became for me to focus on what I knew. I think it's a case of I can't point to anyone that did for me what's going on today with coaches. I never. When I got in my best shape, it was with no one.
Hey,
I have had people that I've listened to. There was Franco Rizzola who used to train Chuck Williams and also Phil.
right.
He showed me something different to what I was doing, and that helped for a while. So I guess you could say Franco was like a coach, but not someone who I need constantly. I've always put it together myself.
Well, we didn't have to rely on that back then. There were no coaches back then. Nobody coached anybody back then. You knew your body. You lived in it. You watched yourself. You looked at yourself in the mirror. You watched and saw how you progressed over time, and that's what you did. We became very good at guessing ourselves in the best shape that we could.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, even like when I started training, I didn't know what to do. If your heart's in it and you've got the passion, you'll come up with something that works.
Yeah.
You'll naturally find it. I don't understand, and this is why probably people like us, along with Milos, can be coaches now, because we never really had coaches. We put it together ourselves. We had maybe advisors or people trying to help.
Yeah.
Well, I disagree with you guys. You should figure out somewhat how to train and stuff, but I think having a good coach, it's just incredible with the right guy on my side what I could have done. And it's every other sport on top level, since track and field, skiing, whatever, there is somebody going through every motion with you. And I still believe if you have the right guy, not to a length where they tell you how to train, except maybe if there's certain body parts that have to be brought up, I think it's way better to have a great coach. I kind of disagree there. Yeah, then try to figure it out on yourself.
If that's your preference, I totally respect that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or if you're fortunate enough to have someone around you who knows what they're doing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And back then, there really wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, I just started training a girl who pretty much started to go to the gym 3 years ago. And although she's very short, like not even 5 foot tall, and she just placed third at the Olympia in wellness, the amateur, and I can only imagine if she would have to gone through what I did with trying her own things and having me on her side, what we could do in those 3 years, and still, I believe in a somewhat okay, healthy way. So I think good coaching can really be of advantage.
Yeah.
Still you have to kind of keep your instinct open and ask the right questions. You can't just follow blind. I understand that, but I kind of, like I said, I have a different opinion on it.
Yeah.
Hey, John, let me ask you this. What year was your last IFBB show?
93.
Okay, and then you went back to NABBA and won the pro in, was it 94 or 95?
I went to NABA in 93.
Okay.
And I placed second to Coac.
Okay.
Then in 94, that was the only time in my life where I had a whole year to prepare for something that moved on me, or Wayne D'Amelia calling me and saying, I've got other plans for you at the last minute. I never had that with the IFBB. So I was very confident that I was going to put together a good package. And that year, I took my normal IFBB weight of 205, 210 pounds up to 230 pounds. And that's something I was never able to do on an IFBB stage because of the way things were handled. I remember once I was training for a contest. I think we had our first child. It was like 5 or 6 in the morning, and I was about to open a gym. And Wayne calls me and he goes, you know, the contracts you've signed for A, B, C, and D, he goes, you can't do those. You're going to have to do these shows here. And I'm going, I'm not prepared for that. How can you do this at the last minute?
Yeah.
And, you know, that's all that ever happened with the IFBB. Never, once I fell out of that top 5, you just weren't shown the same courtesy anymore. It was like you're on you're going.
Yeah.
What did Lee Priest have the same thing? Didn't he go to NABA and gets?
Look, Lee Priest was a little bit different.
Yeah.
Number one, you know, Gene, you had asked me a question earlier how I got my pro card, and I didn't finish answering it. So once I did all that, and I came back the winner, Paul Graham did what he said he was going to do. But then I said, Paul, I'm not going to go back and compete in the Mr. Australia. I'm not going to go through this again. You either give me a pro card or I'm gone. He goes, you're not ready for this. And I said, yes, I am. So I had to do some favors for the IFBB, and I was granted the pro card.
Wow.
Okay. Now, John,
I did win a world championship in another federation, and you know, that year, if I'd have competed in the IFBB, I either would have been a light heavyweight and gone against Moses Maldonado, or a heavyweight and gone against Lee Haney. And the way my progress was happening that year was really, really good. So I had to cut it short. I ended up competing in a NABA contest here in Australia. I was not really in shape. You know, I just squeezed out as much water as possible, and I was good enough to win. Then I had a few weeks to prepare for the NABA show. That's how I got my pro card. And Lee Priest got his pro card more or less the same way. He was having such a problem here in Australia. He went and did an amateur contest in the United States.
Yeah.
And Jim Manion said, give him the pro card. This kid's good enough.
Let me ask you this, John. Let's go back to 94. You won the NABA Pro, right?
Yeah.
Was Brian Buchanan second to you in that show?
No, Brian Buchanan won it the year later.
95.
95. But what happened, there was a contest that I actually held in my gym. It was a pro-am contest, and Brian Buchanan competed in it, and he got second. Shane Stratton, who won his division in NABA, beat him. And he beat him fair and square. Now, then Brian left. He went back to his homeland, England, fixed up a few of the problems that he was having, and pulled out the Pro Universe win. 1995 is when Brian Buchanan won it.
Okay, now he had a gym in Australia at one time with his wife, correct?
Yeah, he had. He did have a gym in an area that's called the Northern Beaches, and I don't know if he was married to this woman. It was this beautiful blonde girl with big teeth.
Michelle. Yeah, she was a good friend of mine. I was friends with both of them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they. You know, then I don't know what happened. He went back to England. I'm not sure if there was some sort of visa problem or some sort of issue. But, you know, he went back home, he won the contest, and that was the end.
Wow. Now that 94 was your last show.
No, 94 was my last show, yeah.
Right.
That was the opportunity that I had been waiting for 11 years to make an appropriate exit, because I said to myself, all of a sudden you've gotten yourself a name. If you pull out now, you're just going to be looked upon as a failure. You've got to do something that's never been done before, or likely that nobody is ever going to be able to do it again, in order to justify all the time you've wasted in bodybuilding. That's
Did you ever contemplate coming back after that, or were you completely done?
Yeah, look, I contemplated coming back into the classic division, and I started by getting elbow operations, which took me in a different direction, and recovering from that and other operations, trying to make everything look good again and work right, just took me in another direction. And I said that this is enough. Yeah, it's not going to happen. You know, but I never said to anyone, "I'm making this comeback." You know, I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah,
I saw what happened to Kevin LeBron. What happened to Flex Wheeler. I mean, Flex Wheeler was in the gym standing next to, who was that? Danny Hester. Danny Hester had just won it. And Flex Wheeler was in the gym talking to him and going, "Look, how's Danny going to beat this guy? Look at him." Well, when they made it on stage, it was a completely different story.
Right.
You know, so see, what you see in the gym and what you see in your bathroom mirror, everybody looks good in their bathroom mirror. Everybody's got abs in their bathroom mirror. And when you go up on stage, oh my God.
Oh yeah, that's what we talk about. Yeah, it's like you see all these Instagram pictures, like, yeah, you look good on Instagram, but when you stand next to somebody else, it's totally different.
Listen, all the good photos of me on Instagram are taken from special angles. I mean, I can't even do a lat spread anymore because of what I've had done to my right shoulder. I have a problem internally rotating, and to get that lat out, I wouldn't put anybody through that on stage. You know, I'd look like a mess. On Instagram, you know, you choose the right angles, you got it. Yeah. And even at the gym that I was working at, doing personal training, I see this kid walking down the middle of the gym, and I'm going, that's that really muscular kid you saw the other day. Or was it the other day? I said, he doesn't have any muscles. So I walked into the dressing room.
He's a TikTok bodybuilder.
He was holding the phone up, and he took a photo. Then I went straight to Instagram, and I'm going, this is not the same person that just took the photo in the dressing room.
Yeah.
You know, filters, angles, and whatever. This guy looks
all the tricks, photography.
Oh yeah. Yeah, especially the women. Holy crap.
I go through it every day with my athletes. They show me pictures of people they can compete against. I had one really great guy dropping out of a show because of those crazy Brazilian bodybuilders are going to show up at the Arnold's, and nobody showed up, or they look totally different. It's just incredible. But
this is exactly what's happening.
Are you not guys still in lockdown in Australia?
Lockdown? No, that's finished now.
You guys are like one of the last ones to, I think, open back up.
Listen, you got no idea what our government puts us through. You know, everybody thinks Australia's this great.
Oh, I'm gonna tell you something. I always talk, you know, once, you know, I obviously I grew up in Switzerland. I live in the United States. I just thought once stuff starts to fall apart here, where do I go? And I always kind of thought, okay, maybe that was pre-pandemic. New Zealand, Australia, maybe, but that talk left me during the pandemic. I mean, wow.
I watched Dave. You know, we watched Dave, and Lee talks about Australia, and he tells some of those stories. Like,
you know, United States is by far the best country in the world to live in.
Which one?
The United States.
Yeah.
Is by far the best country in the world to live in. I mean, Australia's got some great features,
right?
But it's the United States it's a completely different.
It's here. It starts to feel like different countries in one country, depending on the state you're in.
Yeah.
But there's definitely some great places here. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Hey, John, let me ask you, how long have you been married?
Well, that's a tricky one because I actually got divorced,
Okay.
and we were married 23 years. Now we're discussing getting back together again.
Okay.
I mean, I got divorced, but we never really,
Stop seeing each other?
yeah, we never really stopped seeing each other. It was something that should have never have happened.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we can make it right.
Well, how old are your children?
I've got one that's let's see, he's going to be 31 and 27, and they both train. They're shit scared of touching steroids because of all the stories that they heard. So I never hid anything. I never hid anything from anyone. They saw everything, they heard everything.
Right.
You know, they're natural bodybuilders. They look fantastic. They've got really good genetics. They're dedicated, and they're making money from working in the industry.
Okay.
They're self-reliant. So, you know, I'm thankful and grateful that it's even gone that way. And as far as my wife, we're sorting things out between us. So
That's good.
Good. Yeah. Hope it works out for you.
You know, it's not something that you hear about every day. Couple was getting divorced, and it was a divorce that never should have happened.
Well, divorce over here, I think, is 60+% in America.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really high here.
And I'm on my third.
Really? I had no idea for it.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I can't get divorced. I signed up for 20 years with this one here, so I have another 16 to go.
Yeah.
Well, you know, do the best you can.
Yeah, yours is walking around in the background there, JP. You got to be careful.
What is happening with the economy in the United States? Because here in Australia, we've got these increasing interest rates.
Oh, so we got Joe Biden.
Yeah. And, you know, every time you guys do something, we feel it over here.
It's here, you know, everything gets worse, but they keep telling us everything is fine. You know how it goes.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
Every time Biden comes on, he brags about what a great thing he's done for our economy and how everything's getting better.
Well,
it's amazing
I wanted to ask what you guys see, because, you know, when you ask me, Jim, what do I do? The other thing is I'm a real estate investor, and at the moment,
oh wow,
all I could talk about is how much money I'm losing from what's happening with the interest rates.
I hear that.
Same here.
You know, I didn't want to get into it, and so I'm in the middle of all that. And to tell you the truth, you know, if it wasn't for that, the money that I make from personal training and bodybuilding, I don't think I'd be able to buy lunch with it.
Wow.
I remember when I came here, my first trip, I was amazed compared to Switzerland, how much food you get, you know, for $100. And now we're the first time last year, I realized going to a grocery store in Switzerland that it's more expensive in the United States.
Oh yeah.
But, you know, in Switzerland, the salaries are way higher. So yeah, we're definitely not doing very well in that regard here. It's a big inflation, and I don't know where this is going because I guess the people in power found a way to win elections, however they do it.
You know, I'm really interested because honestly, when you guys if you sneeze, if the United States sneezes, Australia catches a cold.
Yeah.
Right.
Whatever you guys do, we get affected.
Let me ask you this, John. I want to ask you, do you have homeless in Australia?
Homeless people?
Homeless people.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yes, we've got homeless people, plenty of them.
Plenty of them.
Plenty of them. We have.
Do you have your homeless camps and stuff like they do over here?
Well, we've got places where the homeless can go. You know, one of them is called the Wesley Mission. You know, they house people who are in trouble or in an abusive marriage or.
Yeah, but I mean, so do we, but here is a totally different situation. There's so many mentally ill people roaming the streets. They're just not even capable to go to a shelter or have any interest in it. So I remember moving to Palm Springs, we used to have the same 3 or 4 homeless, kind of are homeless. We supported them. And now we have the first tent city, you know, with 30, 40 tents. It's just incredible what's going on here.
That's in Palm Springs.
Palm Springs, yes.
Yeah.
because I heard this was happening outside Gold's Gym.
Oh, you should see Gold's
Oh, yeah.
Gym, John.
Oh, yeah.
Gold's Gym, you wouldn't believe it. There's tents on the sidewalk. You can't walk on the sidewalk anywhere around Gold's Gym. It's tent
Right
city.
now. Right now, that's going
The
on.
last time I was there, I don't know if they clean up once in a while, they run them off, and 2 or 3 months later, it's back to the way it was again.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's very sad, and I don't see that changing sometime soon. Yeah.
No, there's more every month. It increases, but the economy right now, it's increasing.
It's like 50, 60,000 in LA alone. Yeah.
Exactly.
San Francisco's been on the news a lot lately. They're having a lot of issues.
Well, they're worse than LA.
Yeah.
I never thought I would see that in the United States, honestly.
Oh,
yeah.
See that.
Yeah.
You couldn't count them with a calculator, man. They're everywhere. I live in a small city called Ventura, California.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
50 miles north of LA.
Yeah.
It's a homeless problem now. It's
COVID really knocked the shit out of us, and
that did.
And them paying people, and that increased the homeless, and it's still a big issue.
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk another hour about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
No,
But-
listen, I mean, this is great talking to you guys. You know, it's been
That was so great to meet you, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you,
Well,
you educated me and a lot of our viewers on some of the great '80s.
Well, you know, Phil, you know, when I met him, it was like instant friendship. We got on. I haven't spoken to him in years.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And again, it's just like, you know, I catch up with him and it's like, you know, we were never really apart.
Mhm.
I always wanted to meet Gene. You know, always
Mhm.
admired him and
Yeah.
had a lot of respect for him. I
Mhm.
was hoping to see him go even further, and I always felt
Mhm.
something didn't go right. This guy is European. He's from another country. He has a little bit of a different mindset. You can identify with that, and you know that's a person that could have went much further, much further.
Yeah.
And you know,
We actually have Ian Harrison on here sometimes, and I spoke to him today. He said to tell you hello, but he couldn't make it.
oh yeah, well, Ian's a really nice guy. I had no idea what an influence I had on that guy. When he told me, he left me in shock.
Mhm.
You know, he claims that he studied my Mr. Olympia posing routine over and over and over just to see how to get in and out of poses. When you hear something like that, it's just like humbles you.
Mhm.
Like you know, you wouldn't believe Ian Harrison like doing that.
Well, he told me the same thing about my posing routine. No, just kidding. Nobody ever copied my. Nobody ever.
Now you just upset JP. He thought he was the inspiration.
What happened to Steve? He just disappeared.
He's having issues, and his phone went dead. He just texted me, so I told him we're about done anyways. So.
Well, guys, you know, if you ever want to do this again, or if there's
definitely.
Love to have you.
Yeah, hey, don't tell me that, because I'll definitely
do
invite you
it
again.
because you know what? Like I know we got to go, and we could have kept talking here. You know, Gene, I'm so surprised that you showed me so much respect. And a lot of the things that you asked me.
You deserve it, that's for sure.
Oh, you know, you make me feel relevant. You know, you're a guy that you know I was looking up to, and Phil. You know,
thanks, buddy.
I know some of the stuff that Phil did and how humble he is, and you know, how much I admired his physique. You know, he's always shown me respect.
And I admire you. You've always been one of my favorite physiques of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I've got like 5 or 6, and you're one of them.
Look, I really appreciate that, Phil. I've always looked at you the same way.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend.
Yeah, I tell you, then
Okay,
when I post these shows, just real quick, when I post these shows, the number one comment I get is the stories you guys tell back from the '80s and '90s. People love it.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that we probably avoided, I was in game enough to talk about a couple of dirty subjects, and you know, I think I would have to work up to it.
Okay.
And I know that Gene held back.
Yeah.
And I know we have things we wanted to say about Wayne, but in regards that he has helped us. He's helped us a lot. He's done a lot, so you got to weigh it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in order to be able to move forward as good Christian people that I hope we are, You're actually supposed to bring that shit up.
Yeah, it's kind of.
Well, I can tell you this: I'll have Ian on next time, and he'll help encourage you. Trust me.
Sometimes, with Wayne, it's like when you had like shitty parents. You have to move on from it.
Yeah.
You have to move on from it. This is no other way.
Yeah.
Look at the good things he did do for us.
Yeah.
Let's look at the positive things that he did do for us. I mean, even Joe Weider, he thought I was nuts. He offered me a contract and I refused him, because I could see where it would end up. And, some of the stories that I hear, I don't know if you guys know Emmerich Belsick. He's the Hannaford king. He told me a story about what happened between Joe Weider and Milos. Now, Milos was on a certain amount of money, and he felt he deserved more because there was another bodybuilder who was getting more than him. So when he approached Joe said something along the lines of, you need to learn how to do this on less money. So he took him from 90,000 a year down to 60, but Milos was asking for 120. Now, that sort of behavior,
Wow,
it would have done my head in.
What year was that?
I don't know. This is a story that Emmerich.
Oh, okay. I got you. Okay.
But I believe it.
Mhm.
I believe it because and I'm a street person. I'm streetwise.
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay, Joe was talking to me, and anybody else probably would have jumped at the chance. I just saw immediate problems from the word go if I'd accepted it.
Mhm.
I just wasn't ready for it. I could not. How many times have I signed things or put myself in a situation where I'm going, do you realize what you've just done? And for the whole time that you're involved in that situation, you're sad because
Mhm.
you shouldn't have done it.
Mhm.
So I was always this sort of person. I'll make my own money. Thank you. I'll my own money. Being used to something like that could actually make you lazy because when that contract's over, unless you set things up, Arnold, what Arnold did with Joe Weider was what I and all of us probably expected we were going to walk into. Making all this money, investing it, becoming rich, and all that sort of stuff. It wasn't.
doesn't pan out that way.
No.
It just doesn't pan out that way.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So
all right, guys. Well,
we should be grateful for what we got.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and look, guys, it was this was, and by the way, today I turned 64. It's my birthday. And
Happy birthday, buddy!
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, man!
This was like one of the best. This made my day.
That's great, man.
He did,
oh man, that's awesome.
And you feel we always got on, and I know how much you respect me, and I feel the same way about you.
Yes, sir.
So, Jason, nice meeting you, and anytime you want, if you can catch me on a day where you want a controversy, I can be quite arrogant, but not to be.
Hey, bring it on. We love it. Yeah. Like I said. All right.
Okay, I gotta go.
All right, guys. Well, thank you
Happy
again.
birthday again,
Nice
John.
to see you guys.
Happy birthday. Thank you, guys.
Happy birthday again, John.
Thank you. Let's stay in touch.
We
Bye-bye.
shall, yes.
Bye bye.